by saying every conservative appreciates Ted Cruz because he's one of the smartest and most articulate people in the Congress, and he's conservative. But he referred publicly to what happened on January 6th as, quote, a violent terror attack. Here it is.
We are approaching a solemn anniversary this week, and it is an anniversary of a violent terrorist attack on the Capitol, where we saw the men and women of law enforcement demonstrate incredible courage, incredible bravery, risk their lives to defend the men and women who serve in this Capitol.
Senator Cruz was game enough to come on tonight. We appreciate that. He joins us now. Senator, thanks so much for coming on. So I guess there are a lot of dumb people in the Congress. You're not one of them. I think you're smarter than I am. And you never use words carelessly. And yet you called this a terror attack when by no definition was it a terror attack. That's a lie. You told that lie on purpose, and I'm wondering why you did.
Well, Tucker, thank you for having me on. When you aired your episode last night, I sent you a text shortly thereafter and said, listen, I'd like to go on because the way I phrased things yesterday, it was sloppy and it was frankly dumb. And
I don't buy that. Whoa. I don't buy that. Look, I've known you a long time, since before you went to the Senate. You were a Supreme Court contender. You take words as seriously as any man who's ever served in the Senate. And every word, you repeated that phrase. I do not believe that you used that accidentally. I just don't.
So, Tucker, as a result of my sloppy phrasing, it's caused a lot of people to misunderstand what I meant. I wasn't saying the millions of patriots across the country supporting President Trump are terrorists, and that's what a lot of people have misunderstood that comment.
Wait a second, but hold on. What you just said doesn't make sense. So if somebody assaults a cop, he should be charged and go to jail. I couldn't agree more. We have said that for years. But that person's still not a terrorist. How many people have been charged with terrorism on January 6th? Why'd you use that word? You're playing into the other side's characterization that, as Joe Kent just explained, allows them to define an entire population as foreign combatants. And you know that. So why'd you do it?
So, Tucker, let me answer you directly. The reason I use that word, for a decade, I have referred to people who violently assault police officers as terrorists. I've done so over and over and over again. If you look at all the assaults we've seen across the country, I've called that terrorism over and over again.
When America saw the horrifying video of a police officer killing George Floyd, a brutal killing that evoked for many the nation's long history of racial discrimination and injustice, Americans rightly and peaceably assembled to demand justice, began as legitimate protests against a vile act of abuse. Sadly, were soon hijacked by opportunists and violent radicals. By early June, rioters had injured more than 700 law enforcement officers across the country and had murdered David Dorn, a retired officer who served St. Louis with honor for many years. They also damaged or destroyed countless buildings and businesses. In Minneapolis alone, rioters burned affordable housing and damaged over 400 businesses, many of them owned by African Americans, at a cost of well over $500 million in damages. In Philadelphia, police cars were set ablaze. In Seattle, rioters who damaged hundreds of buildings were granted and allowed to set up a so-called autonomous zone by local officials who all too predictably resulted in more crime, including 4 shootings that cost 2 young people their lives. The fact is, the people who took the streets because their hearts cried out for justice have become overshadowed by rioters and looters and those who cynically exploit the protest for their own evil ends. In the past year, we have seen massive rioting and violence as extremists, many of them leftist extremists, took to the streets across the country. In just 2 weeks at the end of May and early June, over 700 law enforcement officers were injured. Looking at all of 2020, over 14,000 people have been arrested in 49 cities, and at least 25 people have died in the violence. And it's estimated that the property damages from these riots could exceed $2 billion.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
So you will pay the price.
Yeah.
And his spokesperson came out later and said, you know, they were just talking about really Senate Republicans, not those two. That seems crazy, crazy spin.
Well, look, it's obvious that the spokesperson is trying to dig Chuck Schumer out of the hole he dug for himself. You heard the word Schumer said there. He said, I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh.
And he
wasn't
pointed.
talking to Senate Republicans. He was talking to those two justices. He was threatening them quite directly. You will reap the whirlwind. You will pay the price. That is an unambiguous threat. Now, whether it's a threat of political retribution or something even worse, that's not clear. But whatever it is, it's judicial intimidation. It's not right. It is unacceptable. And I think Chuck Schumer should apologize. By the way, his spokesperson that put out the deliberate lie that he was talking to Senate Republicans, his spokesperson ought to apologize for lying to people, too. And I'll tell you, I think the Senate should seriously consider taking disciplinary steps when you have the leader of one of the two parties going to the steps of the Supreme Court, threatening and trying to intimidate Supreme Court justices. That undermines the rule of law. It undermines the judiciary, and it's just flat out wrong. But let me also make a quick point, Tucker. Remember, while thousands of people were standing up to defend this country on January 6th, at that exact moment, I was standing on the Senate floor objecting to the election results, demanding that we impanel an election commission to consider evidence of voter fraud. And I brought together 11 senators to join me in supporting getting to the bottom of that. So, of course, it would be ridiculous for me to be saying that the people standing up and protesting to follow the law were somehow terrorists. I was talking about people who commit violence against cops.
And I believe there's a better way. The leaders just spoke about setting aside the election. Let me be clear. I am not arguing for setting aside the result of this election. All of us are faced with two choices, both of which are lousy. One choice is vote against the objection. And tens of millions of Americans will see a vote against the objection as a statement that voter fraud doesn't matter, isn't real, and shouldn't be taken seriously.
Remember Lyin, I won't say Lyin Ted, I refuse to say. Lyin Ted. Holds that Bible high, puts it down, and then he lies.
Donald is a bully. The man is utterly amoral.
I think he's crazy. Honestly, I think he's crazy.
This man is a pathological liar, a narcissist at a level I don't think this country's ever seen.
He is choking like a dog because he's losing so badly. We have to put him away tomorrow.
But you mess with my wife, you mess with my kids, that'll do it every time. Donald, you're a sniveling coward, and leave Heidi the hell alone.
So will you support him as the nominee?
I'm going to beat him for the nomination.
That's not
He
answering
is
the
not.
question, Senator.
I am answering the question. Donald Trump will not be the nominee.
He's leading right now. You
Donald
just looked in
Trump
that
will
camera
not
and
be
said
the
he's
nominee.
a coward. Will you support him as the nominee?
Donald Trump will not be the nominee.
Take a ticket or you get run over. It's better to ride up front, first class, eat with the white folks. Know what I mean? Now for my brown brothers. Sorry, no tortilla.
Sabes que, Holmes? You may grow that long hair and try to act like a vato, but you still smell like chorizo, pig.